What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rodeo Wagon Podcast. This is a special episode. We're here at the All-American Quarter Horse Congress, and we're here with Sara Hollar, owner of Sombrero Brands, one of our partners, Cowboy hats. Both of them are Sombrero branded hats. You also do a lot with the NYCHA. Tell everybody a little bit about what you're doing with cutting, you know, being the owner of Sombrero brand and kind of growing up in that. What does that look like?
Yes, sir. From a young age, we've been going down the road. Like one of my first trips was out to West Texas for the West Texas for charity. We're from Brenham, Texas. It's a small town right between Austin and Houston. My grandfather, he started training cutting horses back in the 50s. And we've been an NCHA family for about 3 generations now. We're on the road 6 months out of the year. We used to be on the road a lot more. Just with me getting older and stuff, we kind of dwindled down on the shows, and just because it gets hard being on the road a lot. We travel a lot, and then with me cutting and everything, we're going a lot, and Washington County Fair gets in the way. Like this past summer, that's all I did was show cutting horses and do my fair call.
Yeah, and a lot of the people listening, and then me myself, we're traveling all the time, so we definitely can relate to the many miles that you're putting on. What does that look like as far as schedule wise? Because you're also doing Sombrero Brands. You guys go to a lot of events like the Quarter Horse Congress. You were at Fort Worth for the Futurity World Show and all of that. What does that kind of look like throughout your year between competing and running a successful hat company?
With me competing, it does get very hard because, right now I'm losing about 5 or 6 weeks of show ground. And, beginning of the youth year, we went to a cutting and ended up winning the junior, and I was sitting, top 15 in the world. And we lost ground real quick from being out here and going to summer cutting. But, it gets a lot. We'll go from Brenham to Fort Worth, our show schedule, especially during winter. We don't do anything all summer. We do the summer cut and spectacular. Then we come up here. Then we go to the NCHA for charity, Fort Worth Stock Show, Houston Rodeo, back to Fort Worth for Super Stakes again. And, we travel a lot.
On the NYCHA and, how that works, what is a point system? How does that work in kind of navigating? Are there bigger events that provide more points, and are you able to kind of make up ground if you do well at specific ones? What does that look like?
Yes, sir. So the big cutting horse show, youth shows, are the NCHA Summer Cutting Spectacular, where we have a full week of youth shows, or full week of youth. It's the scholarship, the junior and senior scholarship, and then world finals, which is your top 15 in the senior and the junior. And what happens is throughout the year, from June 1st to June 1st, you have that year to collect points. And the way points works is, depending on how many kids are in a class, is how many points you get. For example, a 3-horse class, it has to be at least 3 kids to make a class. And a 3-kid class is 1 point. And then a 21-kid class is 6 points. But then we get out to Summer Spectacular this past year, and it's a 10-point class with over 45 kids in it. And this year we had a record for the senior. We had 105 kids enter the senior scholarship.
That's cool. And so you have these divisions. What does that look like from the kids coming up to you're 14 years old?
Yes, sir.
So how is that spread out? And
they do it.
When do you transition? When did you bump up to the next level, and when will you do that again?
I'll bump up to the senior this June.
Okay.
And it's based on birthday fall. So I'm born in 2009, June 23rd. So the point year is June 1st. So with my birthday falling after June 1st, I got an extra year in the junior. I'll get an extra year in the senior, which gives me 2 extra years in the youth. But then there's some kids like our junior vice president, Sorrel Carter. He's born in February, and he's cut off a year in the junior. He's 13 right now. And when I move up to the seniors, when I turn 15, I'll be 15 when I move to the senior this year. So will Sorrel. Sorrel will be 14 moving up to the senior, losing that extra year. And
it goes off of age. What about horses? Does that matter? Do you have classes within those age groups based off horses, or
not in the youth? No,
not in the youth. Okay.
Youth is just any horse, and for example, the NCHA Open, it's a trainer who can show any horse owned by anybody. Non-pros and amateurs, those are horses that you or your relatives have to own, kind of. And then the youth, it can be anybody's horse. For example, I could go walk up to, I'm going to use one of my friends, for example, Reese Collins. She was showing one of Terry Lynn and Mike Rutherford's out of Brenham, Texas, one of their horses in the scholarship. And took her took one of their horses out to Memphis and made the world finals. So in the youth, it doesn't matter who owns the horse.
Do you use the same horse, or do you change horses up?
I change horses up. I started off this year with 2 horses. I had the little 7-year-old mare that Dad showed at Houston and was a reserve on, and then that little roan horse that Dad lent out to some people in Louisiana. And he passed away on me about a month and a half ago.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I heard about that.
Yeah, it was really rough.
Yeah.
And then we got to I can't remember, I think it was an ACHA cutting, which is American Cutting Horse Association, and Dad let me break out the old stud. First time we broke out in 8 years, and he's 18 years old, so I mean, it was
How
a lot.
did he do?
He marked a 70. He was really good for me. I mean, real cow. I mean, couldn't tell he wasn't shown for 8 years.
And what did that look like, the background? Like, you guys are doing a lot with, the horses and the cutting, and like you talked about, your generations going all the way back to, is it your great-grandfather, Polly Hollar?
Just grandfather. Dad's dad.
Okay. So, on South Camp at the 4-6s and, really kind of raised up in that, Cowboy.
Yes,
so what does that look like for you guys in training and owning your own horses and that whole process of competing?
It's, it's really just like going back and thinking like what Polly would have done in situations, and that's what me and Dad do a lot is we're like, what would Polly have done? Like, and then that's one thing that Polly taught Dad how to watch cows.
Okay.
And me and Dad will be sitting in the Belton, for example. He'll be sitting up on the fence, and I'll be sitting there with him on whatever horse I'm showing, and we're watching cows. And just, it's something that Dad learned from Polly that stuck with him.
That's so cool, because now that I have a little family and I have a little girl and she watches everything, like, you probably, your entire life, probably remember your dad, being able to kind of teach you that. And
yes.
Is that, a fond memory growing up and kind of learning from your dad, Mark Hollar?
Yeah.
And
I've learned a lot from Mike and Mark. I mean, they've been 2 backbones of my whole little growing up career and with horses. I mean, Mike taught me how to rope. Dad taught me how to cut. I mean, and whenever I'm like, if Dad couldn't take care of me, Mike always does. Like with the fair colt deal, I mean, they're always there for me and teaching me something that I didn't know that Polly taught them, or something they learned whenever they were working at like Wichita or wherever they were working.
Is this, like going into the cutting and into the competition, is it something you've like always wanted to do since you were little, or is it something that kind of,
Honestly,
you hit an age?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both. I mean, growing up, it was never forced on me. I mean, horses never forced, because that was something that happened to Dad, is they were kind of forced on him, and he was like, okay, I'm not a fan.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, nothing's ever been forced on me, and I appreciate that coming from Mom and Dad. I mean, if I want to do something, they'll support it 100%. And, I mean, horses was something that I always loved. It was something that I knew can always be there, and I could just, like, get attached to and have. And then, I mean, you go through selling horses and horses dying and just a hard deal. And, you learn not everything's there forever, but you got to take a moment of what you have. And whenever we were at show in Brenham, it was the weekend before point year was over. And Reese Collins was about 2 or 3 points in or out, depending on what happened there. And then there's a show in Memphis where it was a 6-point. And Reese is like, hey, we need another kid to show. Do you want to show? I was like, yeah, let's do it. Why not? And Dad's like, I'll go grab you a horse, and people are offering horses to me and stuff. I was like, no, I'm going to show the little roan horse. And it worked out good, marked me my first little 68, and it's a good deal. I mean, I love it.
And what are your goals with it? Like, where do you want to be in the cutting world? And like,
if I can, I want to try to make top 15 this year. And that's a pretty lofty goal, but I mean, last year in the junior, it's worth the shot. And then trying to work on my Hall of Fame deal, and that's something with NYCHA. You can be Youth Hall of Fame. You have to be out of high school for 1 year, accumulated like 150 youth points, and just work on it and like be a part of the NYCHA community.
Yeah, and how do you feel you're doing in that process, that you're kind of building up to? Obviously, you're putting in a lot of work.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like right now, we're last few like fundraisers we've had was the stallion. We're on the stallion auction right now, and I've gotten a couple stallions so far. I mean, not disclosing that number yet because they're not for sure, but I mean,
for sure,
it's something that like NYCHA, it's a good thing to be a part of it. I like the stallion auction, and then arena signs for world finals. Every kid has to try to sell arena signs.
Okay.
And this year I sold like 25 arena signs.
Heck yeah.
And I mean, it's just being a part of it. You want, like, I get the kids who just want to come and show, but the kids who want to be a part of it, it's a great deal. And to be like a NYCHA president this year for the junior, it's one of the things that I'm loving the most right now.
Oh, and you're even doing the photography.
In the photography.
Get into that a little bit, because that's recent.
So there's a youth kid, Tristan Crow. He's about 10 years old. He was the youngest kid to show at the NCHA for charity, which is a 3-year-old show.
Okay.
And I was talking to, I believe it was Taylor Breeden, who was in charge of the media at the time. I was like, Miss Taylor, can I go take pictures? She's like, yeah. And then I got my press pass with NCHA, and I mean, summer cutting and for charity and super stakes. I just go in the arena and take pictures of all the youth kids that are showing in the age events, and it's great. I really do love it.
What is that, like, you mentioned the NCHA, NYCHA, what's the connection there as far as...
NCHA is the National Cutting Horse Association, NYCHA is the National Youth Cutting Horse Association.
And is there a flow into, so once you get out of the NYCHA, going into the NCHA, what does that look like? What are your goals for maybe that transition or not a transition,
It'll really depend, we might start showing a little more aged events. I mean, it really just depends on what's going to be happening. We have a 2-year-old coming up, or coming 3, and we might show him at the charity. We might not. I mean,
and so when you make that transition from the NYCHA to the NCHA, probably a lot of it has to do with the horses.
Yes, sir.
And what your breeding program looks like,
yes,
or what
sir.
you're buying.
It takes a lot. For example, the Super Stakes. It's an incentive show, so it's certain horses that are bred by certain stallions.
Okay.
So a couple of the stallions off the top of my head is like Bama Jelly, owned by Madeline Colgrove, and that's one of those horses that's paid up for the Super Stakes and the Bash and Breeders' International, and those are shows that are partially the Bash is not, but Breeders' International and Super Stakes are shows that are specific bred that have to be by a certain stud.
And when you get into obviously you have these studs and stuff like that, and so if you're cutting with a horse that obviously you want to get the accolades for this horse to become a good stud, and obviously as a business that's a huge part of the equine industry is owning a quality stud.
Sir.
What's up, everybody? I'm thrilled to announce a fantastic partnership between the Rodeo Wagon Podcast and Rodeo Life Official. Rodeo Life isn't just a coffee brand. It's a veteran-owned business that epitomizes the principles of hard work, dedication, and perseverance in all their products. As an avid consumer of Rodeo Life coffee, I am proud to align myself with a company that mirrors my values and resonates with our audience. Supporting this veteran-owned business is not only a testament to our shared ethos, but also a way to give back to those who have served our country. This partnership promises exciting content, collaborations, and surprises for all our listeners and the rodeo community. You can anticipate special episodes featuring the Rodeo Life experts, and even a chance to win some Rodeo Life merchandise. We look forward to this journey with Rodeo Life and the enriching experience it will bring our audience. Join us as we venture into this partnership, fueled by a passion for rodeo and a great cup of Rodeo Life coffee. Stay tuned for more exciting updates and the amazing things to come from the Rodeo Wagon Podcast and Rodeo Life Official. Make sure you go to rodeolifeofficial.com and check out all their sweet merch. Hey there, folks. I want to tell you about my favorite cowboy hat brand, Sombrero Brands. As a professional bull rider, I know how important it is to have a hat that not only looks good, but can withstand the toughest rides out there. And that's exactly what Sombrero Brands delivers. Their hats are custom fitted and shaped to perfection, with a level of attention to detail that's hard to find these days. But what really sets Sombrero Brands apart is the fact that they're a family-owned and operated business. Mark and Kendall Hollar, the owners, and their daughter Sarah, who's only 13 but already a hat-making prodigy, are all passionate about their craft. They know what it takes to make a cowboy hat that can stand up to anything the rodeo circuit can throw at it. And get this. The founder's grandfather, Polly Hollar, was born and raised at South Camp on the 4-6's ranch. These folks have got cowboy blood running through their veins, and it shows in every hat they make. That's why I'm proud to have Sombrero Brands as a major sponsor for my podcast, the Rodeo Wagon Podcast. So if you're in the market for a hat that's tough enough to handle anything the rodeo throws at it, give Sombrero Brands a try. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Really help with the accolades? Is it the season-long standings? What does that look like?
So aged events, that is that show. And like futurity's coming up right after this in Fort Worth, and that's all 3-year-olds. It's open 3-year-old, non-pro 3-year-old, and amateur. And then inside of that open, like you have the intermediate and the limited. And like intermediate is a certain like ranking of an open trainer. Limited is a certain ranking of an open trainer, and then there's just the open. And it evaluates on like how much money you've earned in like the past X amount of years. And then world standings, or world finals will also be coming up at the futurity as well. And that's like, sorry, that left my head. It's like starts like January 1st and then goes to the very end of the year, similar to the youth world standings. And you just go along with it, and it's either done by money or like it can be done by rider or horse and then by money. But then the youth, it's done by points, because the youth, it's not a class where you can go win a lot of money. I mean, it's maybe $40 checks, $100 checks. I mean, just like on weekend shows. But then like the 25 open, it's $3,000 check a weekend.
Yeah, it's a big difference there. And what about locations on these? Like, you're in Texas, but you talk about traveling. Yeah. Is that kind of the epicenter of all of this, or does it, obviously there's, even right now with Congress, they're doing a cut in like an hour and a half from here in Eden, Ohio?
I think so.
And so you also look at like Ocala. What does that look like, or is it majority of it kind of in the West?
I mean, it really doesn't matter on where you are. It's just how many cutters there are. Like, I have buddies out in Oregon, and like Oregon shows, like they just had the Cascades Futurity.
Okay.
And like it was big, but I mean then like you got to Texas and they just started the Brazos Bash yesterday.
Yep.
And it's like huge.
Yeah, that's cool to watch on.
Oh yeah.
I think last year, I'm not sure if we're streaming it this year. Last year we streamed it on the app, and it was one of the most popular things. A lot of people watched it.
Oh yeah, it's real good to watch. I mean, it doesn't really matter, and then they do it by circuits. So it's like I'm part of the Alamo circuit, which is like Belton, Brenham, Buffalo, like that area. And
do you have so that you have these circuits? Do you have circuit finals, and then you have an all around or a world?
We have circuit finals.
And do your points at each of your circuits go towards the world, or how does that work?
Yes, sir. They go towards the world. Like that show back in June, like June 1st, like weekend. That was the show that we won. Like we got 3 points, a buckle, and 2 checks and stuff, and that was our circuit finals, I believe. Yeah, because they were giving out circuit awards, and then I'm pretty sure like at the end of, like right before World Finals, they'll do another circuit show.
Man, that's cool. There's so much that goes into that, and some of it is similar to the rodeo side, not so much the bull riding side, but the rodeo side, and how you have these circuits and all of that, and there's some differences, especially when you get into amateur, pro, non-pro.
Oh yeah.
Some of these events that go on. What about the hat company, Sombrero Brands? Like, tell everybody a little bit about the background of Sombrero Brands. We'll have your dad on to talk a little bit as well, but I kind of wanted to hear your perspective on the hat company, when it got started, and what that's been like for you and your experience with it.
Okay. 2005, NCHA Futurity, my uncle Tony was working in Letty's, which is Fort Worth. And Dad was over there helping, and it was during a cattle change. And that's whenever cutting was huge. I mean, you'd have the whole like arena filled for just the for the open finals. And Tony's like, hey, Mark, just pass out beer and keep everybody around. And Dad's like, okay, I can do it. And after the cattle training's over, Dad's like, oh my gosh, that was busy. And Tony's like, oh yeah, I just made $10,000. He's like, no, you didn't. And Dad's one of those guys who has to go and look through everything. And sure enough, rolls through it, about $10,000. And Dad's like, well, would you ever want to do this yourself? And that's whenever Dad and Tony started Sombrero Brands. And 2006, February was their first show. It was Houston Rodeo. Hit it out of the park, and I mean, just started going. And May 2006, Dad had his heart attack. Didn't slow him down at all, which is really shocking. And then I mean, they just kept going with it. They did the They did West Texas for charity, and then they did the West Coast run, and that's going to Cascades, California, Idaho for charity, Vegas, and then coming back to Texas, doing the bash, and then going to charity for World Finals.
So when you were born, you were just born going.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, from a baby, they were probably taking you everywhere.
Yeah, like I said, first show would have been either Summer Cutting Spectacular, which is July, August, or West Texas for Charity, which is out in Amarillo. So.
And yeah, so you've been doing that, and what's that like? You know, we talked a little bit about your schedule with the NYCHA and stuff like that, but what does that schedule look like for Sombrero brands, especially for, you know, all the people watching? Like, where can they find, you know, obviously Houston's a big deal. You go to Houston,
oh, yeah.
You're here at the All-American Quarter Horse Congress every single year, and you have a pretty big booth set up.
Yes, sir.
So what does that look like for you guys?
Like I said, we're doing 6 30-day shows every year. I mean, and then sprinkling in a few weekend shows. We've done 3 cutting horse shows, which are all in Fort Worth, and then we do Fort Worth stock shows. So, I mean, we're in Fort Worth at least 120 days out of the year. Then we do come up here for this, and then do Houston Rodeo.
And do Houston. Which one's the biggest, you think? Houston?
Oh, that's hard. For Charity's a good show,
Is it?
But I mean, Houston's good too. Houston, you see people that you might never see again.
Yeah.
And first time they'll see you, last time they'll see you.
Yeah.
But then like you get at Charity, and it's like the people that you're used to seeing, like Colt Moore, Don Banuelos, Austin Shepard, Kelly Earnhardt. But then you have the international side. I mean, we have people flying in from Australia and Europe, and I mean it gets a lot. Like you see a lot of people that you see once a year, and they come and spend money, and it's a good deal.
You know, it always intrigues me too, because like you're going to all these events, but it's not like you're coming to a weekend show. Like a lot of these events are a long time. This is a 30-day deal. The futurity is pretty long as
30
well.
30 day. I mean, everything's 30 days.
Everything's 30 days. Is Houston 30 days too?
Pretty sure.
I know it's pretty long.
We're there for a week before everybody for the cutting horse show.
Okay.
So it gets tired.
Man, so you're doing a lot.
Yeah, we do like Houston. I'm not sure the schedule this year, but like last year, we did the whole week of cutting and then go to ranch rodeo. So it's like us showing and me getting Dad's horses legged up and everything, to then staying at the Coliseum till about 12:30 at night for the ranch rodeo.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah.
And what about, talk to people a little bit about hats. You know hats.
Oh, yeah.
Talk to people a little bit about quality hats, the differences in these styles of hats. Just get into the hats for us a little bit. I haven't had anybody that's really talked about it. It's in the bull riding world, just so you know, we have ropes. And there's all different kind of ropes. There's different qualities, different preferences. So it's kind of intriguing when you get into some of this stuff, especially the practicality of a good cowboy hat,
yes,
but also the style.
Like cutters, I mean, like they'll go for like the futurity, which is the hat I'm wearing, or like the elite, which is like equal to a pure beaver. And I mean, it's just really preference. And like the higher the quality of the hat, like on a silver belly, the prettier it'll look. Black hat, it's a black hat. I mean, it looks the same to me, which makes people a little mad when you say that, but it's a black hat. And then like Dad carries the blue hat, which I'm wearing, in like different qualities. And I mean, like you can go take the futurity in the hand and look at them and see that the futurity is a richer color, that it's a better looking hat.
And when you get into like quality, obviously you have like thinness, you know. So what does that look like as far as?
The better the quality, the lighter the hat, the thinner it should be. And
is it a different, you know, what kind of hat it makes it quality? As far as what makes it thin, what makes it stiff, that kind of stuff.
Kind of like the more beaver in the hat. And
the more beaver in it?
It really depends on how the hat got finished.
Okay.
And like, I mean, if it's a great hat but poorly finished, it's not going to come out a nice hat. If it's a lower quality hat with a good finish, it's going to feel good.
Yeah.
Like Atwood 7X, it's a 7X, but I mean, it feels great.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing, because I was talking to your dad about Atwood, and I'd only really known of them from straws, but he was saying that they make really good felts, and he was showing me one that you guys had over at your booth. And
Mr. Brooks does a great job with his hats.
That's another thing that I really thought was refreshing about last year, when me and Vinny sat down with Mark, your dad, and talked to him about the hats and stuff. Is it's not like this competitive space where these hat companies are at each other's throat trying to compete against each other. It's really a community that's, you know, builds off of each other, and that's kind of cool.
Oh yeah, like Kevin Glover, for example, he owns Brink's Hattery. He used to work for us back in the day, and he worked for Shorties and everything. And like Kevin has his own business. Well, let's say Dad, like, and he's up here at the Congress right now, and if Dad doesn't have a hat, we call Kevin. If Kevin doesn't have a hat, Kevin calls us, and we just try to, I mean, it's nothing cutthroat. It's trying to include everybody. We want everybody to do good.
Yeah, make the best hats you possibly can.
Oh, yeah. And like some for charity and stuff, there are no hat vendors. It's Miss Brenda Allen who owns Calvin Allen with her husband, Western Legacy owned by Mr. Marty, and then Dad.
Huh.
And but then like you get out here, I mean, there's 7 hat vendors, I think.
There's a bunch, yeah.
Yeah, and then like you get out to Houston Rodeo, and you can buy a hat on every little aisle you go through.
Oh, I guarantee it.
But then like that's another reason why Dad sets us up in the like in the arena, because that's more of your rodeo crowd, more of like the people that are needing hats,
sure.
or rather than the people that are just wanting a cowboy hat because
like
they went
fans.
to Houston.
Yeah, because It brings in so many different people. You have contestants, and you also have a lot of just fans.
I think 1.something million a year.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a lot of people, and like, but I mean, you have people that like, you're like, oh, this hat. They're like, how much is that hat? And you're like, it's $10.75, and they like are in shock. But then like you have other people, and you're like, how much is this hat? And it's like $2,500, and they're like, oh, okay, here's $2,500.
You know, you talk about that, and the rodeo crowd is a whole different crowd.
Oh, yeah.
You get a bunch of, rodeo guys, come in, and they're probably looking at more the lower end,
Yes, sir.
And then you have, maybe your reiners, that are coming in, and they're looking for something nicer.
Yes, sir. And like nicer hats, going back to Brooks Atwood, we just did a hat for Stephen Feiner, who helps Adon Benuelos.
Oh, cool.
Or kind of Adon works for him in a way. And he just got one of the Spradley hats, which is made by Atwood. He bought out Mr. Spradley, and it is a thin black hat. I mean, like, it's paper thin. It's really cool.
All right, so you're doing a lot with the hat stuff with Sombrero, but you're also going to school. You're 14 years old.
Oh, yeah.
What's that been like? I mean, I'm in college, so we've talked a little bit about, that busyness and stuff like that, but what's been the challenge, and also what's giving you some freedom because you're doing homeschooling?
It's been a lot. I mean, that's easy to say. It's been a lot because, I mean, we're up here from 9:30 to 6 p.m. I mean, I'm doing school in between the day, but then, like, we get busy, and then it's going home and doing school at night or waking up early in the morning and doing school. So, and, like, but then, I mean, it has been a little bit of a challenge because, I mean, that's a lot to keep up with because, I mean, we're gone 6 months a year, and we're the 6 months a year that we are school's in season. And I mean, it does get a little hard. I get a little bit behind, but I mean, I always keep pace with it and keep track. And with like what we do, and like, I mean, all those Cutter kids, we're all homeschooled for the most part.
Okay.
And I mean, it does get challenging. I mean,
sure.
Every kid can agree that homeschool does get challenging at some points in time.
Yeah.
But I mean, for what we do, it's one of the best things.
Well, and what you're doing with the business side of things, and I think that's probably some of the best schooling you could ever get.
Yes,
is just learning how to manage a business. And
oh, yeah.
Your dad, he really, when you go over there, you run the show.
Oh,
and
yeah.
He gives you a lot of freedom to be able to actually learn how to do that, and that's one of the coolest things I've seen. What's that process been like as you've kind of grown? Because I'm, from a 10-year-old, now you're 14, and kind of slowly maybe taking on some more responsibility. And
I mean, it's been a lot. I mean, it's helping Dad every day. And like, even though we're not at a show, I mean, I'm with Dad, unloading trailers, reloading trailers. I mean, working over at the barn. And like last 2-3 years, I mean, it's really stepped up. Like, I mean, I'm going to each show, ringing up people. I mean, putting hats on people. Like, this is a busy show for us.
Sure.
And I mean, I'll be running the register, or I'll be trying hats on people, and it's a lot. I mean, for me, balancing everything I do, I mean, I have NYCHA, Sombrero brands, school, and then like the fair cult stuff that we just ended about 3 weeks ago. I mean, it's been a lot. I mean, we just keep going.
Me and Vinny just talked about like time management, and you're in the same boat where you've got, a lot of this stuff, and like how important just managing your time and discipline. That's probably maybe one of the best things. I look at you, and I actually look up to Mark and how he's kind of raised you and allowed you to kind of get that experience. And,
yes,
and for me with my daughter is like, hey, that's actually a great way, to actually train your children up to be able to kind of, graduate and actually be able to be successful in this world, instead of just maybe going straight off to college and going into $100,000 debt.
Yeah.
You know, maybe if you're going for something specific, but like you're learning real life, practical.
That's one thing that a school can't teach you is I'm learning how to interact with people, how to talk to people. I mean, like somebody can walk by and I can have a whole full conversation with them, and just like it's not. I mean, everybody's a stranger till they're not.
And,
I mean, you make friends with this business. Like 2 or 3 days ago, we had some customers that came last year. I mean, I just sat down and talked with them. I mean, they were there for like an hour getting their hat shaped, and we just talked. I saw them last year, talked to them about 5 minutes, and then, I mean, just recognizing people, recognizing faces, and just having that way to be able to just talk. Like, if it wasn't for Dad, I couldn't be talking here like I am right now.
It's one of my favorite parts, too, about traveling and you know, the different people you meet. And that's probably, you know, as busy as you are and how much you're on the road, the good side of that is you get to meet so many cool people. And probably each time you go to a different, you know, place, whether it's Houston, whether it's here, it's a new faces, some of the same faces, but a new group of people, and you get to kind of, you know, make up with them, and that's cool.
Yes, sir.
But man, it's been awesome having you on here, Sarah. We've been wanting to do it for a minute.
Oh yeah, last year.
It's been a year.
It's been a year.
I was gonna have you on Zoom, but it's so much better
being in person.
In person, so much better. And I've been laid up, and I've been doing Zoom ones, but being in person so much cooler.
Oh, yeah.
You could actually connect a little bit, and it's just a different world when you're in person versus Zoom.
Yes, sir.
Zoom's fine. It's fine, but
it's fine.
It's so much better in person. And I got to see you, so it's not like we haven't seen each other. You came to the, where was it at?
We were in College Station.
College Station, yeah.
It was like third weekend of May. We came out and saw you in College Station.
I think College Station was the Velocity right
tour.
Before finals, I believe.
Yeah, it was the Velocity tour right before the finals. Because the weekend we went to Belton, you were in Fort Worth.
I won Fort Worth. That was a good weekend. Yeah.
Cool.
At the Combine Championship. Yeah. Yeah, because I actually, that week, I went up to, me and Dakota Eagleburger, we went to Fort Worth for the Combine Championship. I rode there. Then we went to College Station, and then we went up to Corpus Christi for finals. And then headed back. And
yes, sir. And then we saw you at Super Stakes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
It?
That was another deal at Fort Worth. Yeah. Me and Keith went up there, and we got to hang out a little bit, too.
Yeah, it was during... No, it wasn't. It was for charity.
Well, it was
for charity because you had tickets for us. And
that's right.
We had a girl staying with us at the time, and Dad wouldn't let both of us just go down to the stockyards.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And heck, this year with the PBR, what they're doing in Fort Worth, I'll probably see a bunch this year.
Yes, sir.
Because last year it was kind of like, we're the touring pros, the Fort Worth deal is going to count its points, and so I'm far enough away. It wasn't like I was just going to go, but if they count towards points, then I'm probably going to be there a bunch.
Yes, sir.
And you guys are in Fort Worth a lot throughout the year.
Yeah, the Fort Worth Stock Show and the 3 Cutting Horse shows, and then we might, with me showing, like, whenever we get down to down season, I might be shown out there a lot in Fort Worth or Brenham. I mean, it's a lot to see. Like, I mean, you never know where you're going each weekend. Like, we have buddies that are going out to Louisiana this weekend, then going up to Colorado, then back to Texas, and getting ready for charity season.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah. Guys, make sure you go to Sombrero Brands. Look up where they're going to be. They make quality hats, some of the best hats, made. Great insight. If you don't know what you're wanting, go to them. They do custom fittings and everything. It's been nice having you, Sarah.
Yes, sir.
Want to thank, Cosmic Cowboy Productions. They put on great productions for us. I'm a bull rider and I'm not the greatest at it, so it's nice being able to have, people that can produce quality content for us. Also, Rodeo Life. Go to the app. I drink their coffee every week. Go to the app, check out Rodeo Life, rodeolifeofficial.com, Sombrero Brands. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See ya.
That wasn't long. I expected that to be
40 minutes? 30 minutes?